Hello and welcome back to the Final Whistle podcast. I'm Harry McBain, and as always, I'm joined by Daniel Fears. How are you doing, Dan?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Now, we're also joined by our very first special guest. He's a YouTuber with over 6,000 subscribers. He's interviewed footballing legends such as Martin Keown, Nigel Clough, and the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Bruce. It's Max Hayes. How are you, Max?
Very good, thanks. Very good, thanks, Harry. Thanks for having me on. It's much appreciated.
It's fine. It's an honour for us. Now, we're going to be talking about the playoffs today. Now, like me, you're a Forest fan. Do you think we can make the playoffs?
Well, I think obviously we're on track to, and we're already in the playoffs, and there's no reason why Forest can't, to be honest. And I think that if somebody had said to us at the start of the season with Lamouchi coming in and a guy we've never heard of, that Forest are going to finish fourth or fifth at the end of the season, I think every Forest fan would have been over the moon. So I think we've got to put that into perspective. And obviously, it's strange times at the moment. Of course, it would be much more exciting if we were there right now, because if the playoffs were obviously with fans, we'd be able to go and go to Wembley, because I think Forest fans and the football fans forget that Forest have never been to the new Wembley. I haven't really seen Forest win a lot in my lifetime, and it's probably the same for you as well. So at the end of the day, I think that if we just keep putting in solid performances like we've done against, Sheffield Wednesday was okay, but like we did against Huddersfield as well, there's no reason why we just can't cement that playoff place. But I was speaking to Julian Bennett yesterday, doing some post-match interviews with him, and he said, well, the old cliche goes, take every game as it comes, which a lot of managers will say, but it's true. And Forest don't need to get complacent. We just need to keep winning. Don't worry about other results, and kind of see where we are at the end of it, and hopefully we'll be able to cement that playoff place and push on further.
Well, it's been, obviously, yesterday it was 1 year exactly since Lamouchi was appointed, just 18 minutes after sacking O'Neill. Bit of an impressive one. Now I saw a stat that said we're about 60-ish, 64 points, I think, and that was how we were last season. And we've still got 7 or 8 games left. It's an incredible job that he's done. It's done at Forest, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. And I think that, like I said earlier, a guy we never heard of, and there was an article released actually this week on The Athletic, and Forest kind of correspondent Daniel Taylor, who obviously he normally breaks the news of Lamouchi being appointed or O'Neill being sacked, and he's kind of like the source of the club, really. And he said how, in his article, how in the players' WhatsApp group, so obviously the players have a WhatsApp group, apparently they said that I've searched Lamouchi on Wikipedia, and he seems like a nice guy. So even that shows, the players didn't like it. The players didn't know who he was. So it's an interesting one, and I think that he's just come in and he's just changed the squad. He's changed players that we never thought we'd see in a Forest shirt again. Ben Watson, for example, he's become just such an incredible player. He's moved Matty Cash to right back. Everybody at the start of the season, Matty Cash isn't a right back, and now he's probably one of the best, if not the best, in the Championship and the Football League. So Lamouchi's done an excellent job, and I think it's really good that obviously we've given him that 2-year contract with an option of a third the other week. And it's the least he deserves. And even if, of course, if we don't go up this year, we don't even make the playoffs, then he still had a fantastic season. We go again next season and hopefully look to push on maybe towards those automatic spots if we can. But I just think that he's built a connection with the fans as well, and I think that's important for a manager, and we haven't had a manager like that in a long time. And of course he's going to be the first Forest manager to complete a whole season since Billy Davis, which is an incredible stat, really.
Yeah, the good old days of Billy Davis. God, remember those.
Yeah.
So Lewis Grabban, he's on 19 goals this season. Ollie Watkins and Mitrovic are the only 2 players in the Championship above him. Do you think he's got any chance of catching them up this season?
Good question. God, that's a tough one. It depends, doesn't it? It all comes down to for example, if because I was speaking to my brother about it yesterday, and he was saying obviously how Mitrovic would most likely get obviously the player of the season or the most goals. But if, for example, one of those players ended up with an injury or whatever, or even Graben, fingers crossed he doesn't, ended up with an injury, then then it throws it all out the window. So he could catch him. At the end of the day, I'm not really bothered. I don't think Lewis Graben's bothered. I think Lewis Graben's target at the moment is probably to just keep scoring goals and keep winning games for Forest. And then if he gets to a nice tally, and which he already are, I think he's scored the most goals since David Johnson, which I think I saw a stat yesterday on Twitter. So yeah, I mean, there's no reason why Graben can't catch him at all. But again, another crucial player for Forest, and probably one of the best strikers in the Championship.
Now, I'm sure you'll know at the start of the season, lots of people saying, especially when it was under O'Neill, Graben didn't really look as bothered to play, and he obviously didn't enjoy the style of Martin O'Neill's hoofball. And everyone's saying, oh, he just doesn't bother when he gets an attack, and then when it hits us on a counter, he just stayed up there. But we saw yesterday versus Huddersfield, the amount of battling Graben was doing, and I was saying to my dad, "Hang on, what's Graben doing? And we don't normally see him doing this. He's obviously in a good mood." I think if we didn't have Graben, we'd be a lot worse off.
Oh, I totally agree with you, and it's funny. It's funny you mentioned how he didn't enjoy the style of play under O'Neill, and when O'Neill was appointed. I was actually quite a fan of it, and I always say that. But whereas my brother, for example, on the other hand, and a few other people that kind of Forest related that I know as well, and in the family were totally against it and said that it's completely the wrong decision. And in this article I was reading, they were saying that how the players didn't like him, and obviously they had to make a change. And I think it's been probably one of the best changes they've made, because we've got Lamouchi on, Lamouchi, and it would be interesting to see if we'd have kept O'Neill, where would Forest be now? And obviously, we don't know the answers to that question, and we never will. So it's one of those mysteries. But in terms of Graben, like you saying, being bothered and everything like that, and yesterday, I just think to be solo up there as a striker on a football pitch, you've got to be a good player, and you've got to have the skill, and Graben does. And I think it's been honestly such a good season for him, on not only just a goal scoring note, but creating chances and just generally helping out the team. And it's sometimes you see a striker would maybe be solo on his side, with himself, and not kind of feed off to other players. Whereas Graben, he holds the ball up, and like you say, he's physical, and I think you said without Graben, Forest would be a lot worse off, and that does worry me when you say that. But we have got other players in the team that could take. We've got players. I think he had a chance late on in the Huddersfield game. Alex Mighton, another young player. Tyler Walker. There's all these young players coming through the academy, and I think it's good to have somebody like Graben at Forest and the football club to not only score the goals, but to help and mentor these young players like Tyler Walker, like Alex Mighton, that he can give off his Championship striker experience too, and that really helps the team, and that means that those young players and Forest are destined for success, really.
Now we're going to go back on to the playoffs here. So who do you think will be in the top two, and then obviously the rest of the top six?
Right, yeah, God, it's it's so hard to call it, and Forest could slip out, and Forest could go in the automatics. I think in the automatics, see, Brentford won on was it Friday night against West Brom, and that worries me in a way that Brentford will go up into the automatics. But I'd actually rather that happen and somebody like West Brom or Leeds go down, because I think Forest would have more chance of beating teams like that than Leeds. But yeah, no, I've kind of always said this, since the fixture list resumed behind closed doors. I'd probably say. I think Leeds will win the title. I think West Brom have slipped up many times. I think Leeds will win the title. Then West Brom in second. Brentford in third. I think Forest are going to finish fourth. I think Fulham will slip down to fifth. And I think the sixth place, well, I mean, there's so many teams fighting for that, isn't there? I mean, Derby have been thrown into the picture. See, I would say an underdog, but it's like I'd probably say somebody like, obviously that they're in now, but probably somebody like Cardiff or Bristol City. And Neil Harris has done an incredible job for Cardiff. I mean, I don't particularly like watching Cardiff's football because it's similar to Neil Warnock's at Cardiff. But he's done a brilliant job. So I can probably see Cardiff actually finishing in sixth place. Yeah.
Yeah, we had the conversation yesterday when we were trying to come up with our top six, very similar to yours. Before we put Brentford in second, of course, and then putting Leeds into the playoffs because it would be really funny. And we also said the same thing about sixth. And it's too hard to call that. We put Swansea in there, but it could be anyone in, from sixth down to 10th at the moment. Anyone could fight for it.
Yeah, no, and I just think that what it shows that the Championship's such a tough league. And again, it's another bit of a cliche, but there's no easy game in the Championship at all. And you can see that with Forest, Sheffield Wednesday, Huddersfield. And to be fair with Huddersfield, they didn't put in a bad performance yesterday, especially, towards the end. I think when Forest were 1 or 2-0 up, they were pressing and attacking quite a lot. I think it was quite nice to beat Huddersfield yesterday, though, if I'm honest, and get kind of a win over them, because when we played them in Christmas time, I didn't particularly like the Cowley brothers. I particularly went off them. It's from a Forest fan point of view, and I can remember when they were cheating and diving all over the place, and then accused us of cheating and diving all over the place. So I think it was quite nice for us to win yesterday, and just another good win, but another tough game, and there's going to be so many tough Championship games because of how hard the Championship is at the moment.
Who do you think will help Forest the most this season, then, to get you pushed for the playoffs?
Who do I think will help Forest the most?
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably got to be somebody like Graben again. If not somebody like a creative player. We look at somebody like Thiago Silva, who I think doesn't get enough mentions in the Forest squad. He came in, and compared to Carvalho when he first came in, a foreign player coming into the Championship has to adapt quickly. But Thiago Silva is much more physical. He's much more skillful, and I'm not slagging off Carvalho here. He obviously hasn't got a chance in the Forest squad at the moment, but Thiago Silva has just been another fantastic player for Forest this season. I can't really put it down to one player that could help Forest for the rest of the season. I'd probably say just the whole team. And, even from the goalkeeper, from Brice Samba all the way. And it's having characters in the dressing room. It's not only about, on the pitch. And I think that's the key. And because obviously with what I do with Forest and kind of get to see some of the behind the scenes access, who's a character in the dressing room and who's one of those team leaders. And you need those. And that needs to be a key aspect in a football squad. It's not just the playing side of it, but having team leaders and having players that motivate each other and thrive off each other and bond together. And if you have that and you can play decent football like Forest have been doing, then you're on planet. You're doing so well just because of how the team bonds, and that's really important for a Championship side, and especially Forest this season as well.
Well, it's obviously, we said earlier that Lamouchi, hopefully, as long as he doesn't leave in like the last 3 games, will be the first manager to make a whole season since Billy Davis. And I think that is also the last squad that, I know in my opinion, were the strongest, because we had the McGugans, Tysons, we also had Lee Camp, and they were a strong squad. And I don't think we've had a squad that strong up till now, because at the moment there are very little players in our squad. When we're going out in matches, I'm like, oh God, they're a liability. We're gonna because they're in the squad. Yeah. We're gonna mess up. Now we're gonna do a little transfer story here relating to Forest, and 2 of the key players in the squad, of course, Matty Cash and Joe Worrell. They've been linked with a move to West Ham, and it's thought that Moyes wants them for a combined fee of 30 million. Now, do you see that going through? And what price would you take for them?
Yeah. See, it's a really difficult question, that, because I think that Matty and Joe are 2 kind of homegrown Forest lads. They grew up in Nottingham, came through the Forest Academy. I think if Forest got promoted, why would they want to leave or go to West Ham? Or even if Forest stayed in the Championship, West Ham are going down, or pretty much, can go down. So why would they want to go and move to West Ham? I don't get that, and I can't see the board accepting 30 million for two players that could be playing in the same league. And at the end of the day, it's really difficult with transfers, and it's hard to predict because you can't predict it. It's really up to the player, really. But I can't see them two leaving. I honestly think that Matty and Joe enjoy Forest so much and enjoy Nottingham. I can't see them, making the trip down south and moving all the way to West Ham. I just can't see that happening. But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And if it does, it does. And if it does at the end of the day, then they're two fantastic players, fantastic players to have around the club, fantastic leaders, and obviously wish them all the best. But I can't see it happening at all.
Yeah, maybe if we still had Fawaz in charge, who knows? That could that would be a more likely deal. Just getting money for the sake of it.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining us, Max. It's been a pleasure having you on, and let's hope
no problem at all.
Forest can finally get up to the promised land after all this time.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you. Now we're going to be getting on to this bit of the podcast where we're going to be doing our hero and failure of the weeks. Now, this week I'm doing the hero, and I've chosen Anthony Martial because he became the first Manchester United player to score a Premier League hat-trick since Van Persie did in 2013. Now, what did you think of his performance this week?
It was overall a very good performance. He wasn't just doing goals; he was going on these runs that you haven't seen him doing for a little while. And to be honest, I can see United really challenging for the title next season. I think they're doing really well since Ollie's came.
Now, as I said, it was the first Manchester United hat-trick in the Premier League since Robin Van Persie scored against Aston Villa in 2013. So that's been 7 years and 63 days exactly. United have played 263 games and no other player has scored a hat-trick. I think that just shows you that Man United have not had a quality striker since Van Persie left. Of course, they had Lukaku, but I'm surprised he didn't get a hat-trick. Do you think that Martial, and of course they got Rashford, are the people, as you said, to bring them back up to the top of the English game?
Yeah, I do. I think that they've got Bruno Fernandes and Pogba in the field. And you can tell that Pogba thinks they're going to win something because he's actually started playing well for them. They've also got Mason Greenwood.
Yeah, I've noticed that in Pogba's last few games. Obviously, I think it was with his injury. He hadn't played since January or February. And now, of course, after this break, he's back. And it looks like he's been trying to prove himself, whether that's to try and get Man United to do better or whether it's to try and get more people to buy him in the summer by putting in some impressive performances. That might be the case. But so here, Martial's Premier League record, he's made 138 Premier League appearances, 48 goals, 20 assists. And that this season, that's, I'm just checking this right. I think that's 14 goals, I think. It's a very good record this season. Do you think he has been a good signing since he's arrived a few years ago?
I think he's been a very good signing because he's not only played up front, he's been playing on the wing as well. So that goal return hasn't really just got it, so it's just strikers because he's been on the wing as well.
Now, who have you chosen as your failure of the week?
My failure of the week is Alexander Mitrovic. He didn't really get involved in the game for Fulham at the weekend. He didn't score, and he's now been banned for 3 games, which I think could cost them the playoff spot.
Yeah, well, of course, as a Forest fan, I can very happily say that we're very glad that Mitrovic will be missing our game versus them. And I think, he is probably, as you said, messed up Fulham's title hopes. They haven't got many, not title hopes, playoff hopes. They haven't got that many star players. He was one of the top goal scorers, as we said to Max, is one of the top ones among Graben there. But I think that is a major blow Fulham, and it was all a very a very stupid mistake.
Do you think that he'll be top goal scorer or Ollie Watkins?
I think now that Mitrovic has got a 3-game ban, it wouldn't surprise me if Ollie Watkins went and took the top goal scoring. I think hopefully that messes up Fulham's playoff chances, and we can all have a nice journey into the playoffs. I mean, those of us in the top 6, not those down in the rest of the Championship like Reading. Now, it's been a great episode. We've really enjoyed it. We obviously a brilliant interview with Max, and then we've given you the our hero and failure of the weeks. Please remember to like and share with all your friends. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Thank you for listening. That was The Final Whistle.